So the top stories here on CNBC TV 18. Now, just days after Moody's downgraded India's credit rating, S&P has affirmed it at BBB-. This is major relief as many were fearing a downgrade, with several economists and brokerages predicting a 5 to 10% growth contraction this year. In fact, the Moody's downgrade has also put India on par with S&P and Fitch because it had upgraded the rating in 2017. Fitch is yet to take a decision as things stand. India has the lowest investment grade rating from all three major agencies. What was particularly heartening from S&P was that it has maintained the stable outlook on India. Remember, Moody's had downgraded the outlook on India to negative, but S&P has chosen to keep the faith, at least for now. Fitch also currently has a stable outlook, but there is a warning. S&P has said that ratings will be downgraded if the economy does not see a recovery in 2021 and if the government deficit overshoots the forecast. So that's S&P. Lata joins us now with more. Lata, S&P affirming India's rating along with a stable outlook.
Yes, the stable outlook is important because the market did fear that a negative outlook might just about set the cat among the pigeons, even as the financial markets are recovering. And therefore, the reaffirmation of stable outlook will be taken positively. However, the immediate benefits are not so many because the rupee was anyway strengthening because of the dollar hurtling downward against all currencies. So it's not as if any rupee recovery tomorrow is because of S&P's rating reaffirmation. It was anyway headed stronger because of the dollar's weakness. For the bond markets, we have been seeing a rally, and that might continue because the appetite for Indian bonds continues since banks have nowhere to lend. So immediate impact on markets is not seen. Stock markets too could continue to rally simply because there is a global risk on. But the key takeaway from S&P is that they are okay with the fiscal deficit going up to 11% in the current year. They refer to the state plus central government deficit. They expect, of course, that the deficit gap will start closing over the next 3 years, starting FY22. On growth, they expect a -5%, a contraction of the economy this year, and on that contracted number, a +8.5% next year. However, the key point about the warnings on long-term growth are similar if you look at S&P's and Moody's analysis and a lot of economists. The doubt that S&P raises over India's longer-term growth trend. It says that at the moment, India's per capita growth is better than peers in the BBB- category, but it says there are some emerging dangers whether this trend will continue. The three dangers it points to are: one, that the financial sector is very weak; two, labor market rigidities; and three, fall in private investment. It says that if steps are not taken to address these three, the longer-term growth advantage that India has could be under threat.
All right, Lata, many thanks for joining us. That is the view coming in from S&P, affirming India's rating, and more importantly, as we were pointing out, an outlook that is stable coming in from S&P. Let's move now to today's Health Ministry data, which shows that total recoveries have surpassed the total number of active cases for the first time since the COVID outbreak began in India. While total active cases stands at 1.33 lakh, total recoveries now at 1.35 lakh. The daily total case load as of 8 a.m. this morning was 9,985. That is 2 cases lower than yesterday's number. In state-specific news, the Rajasthan government has ordered that its borders be sealed for a period of a week after a surge in COVID cases. Total cases in the state stands at over 11,000 and 256 people have died from the infection so far. In Mumbai, peak cases have crossed 51,000, taking it past Wuhan's count. Total cases in Maharashtra stand at 90,000. Meanwhile, in Delhi, Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal back in action after having tested negative for COVID-19 yesterday. In a press conference, he said that over the last 8 days, Delhi hospitals admitted 1,900 people. He added that while 4,200 beds are currently vacant, the state will need almost 1.5 lakh beds by the end of July.
15 जुलाई को दिल्ली में 33,000 बेड्स की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी दिल्ली वालों के लिए। 31 जुलाई को 80,000 बेड्स की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी। सारे मिला के बाहर वाले भी अगर मिलाएंगे तो 65,000 बेड्स की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी। और 31 जुलाई को 80,000 बेड अगर दिल्ली वालों के लिए चाहिए तो लगभग 1.5 लाख टोटल बेड्स की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी। कल से परसों से मैं खुद ज़मीन पे उतरूँगा, मैं खुद जाके स्टेडियम्स को बैंक्वेट हॉल्स को, होटल्स को तैयार करवाएंगे हम।
Firstly, I think this presupposes a continued exponential rise in the number of cases, which need not be if you're taking effective containment measures. And that's been the experience so far. And secondly, it also means that a large number of people will be asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic and be managed at home. Most of them may not really require hospitalization. And those who require hospitalization too, do not all of them require conventional intensive care. Many of them will just do better on oxygen alone. They don't need ventilators. So some sort of a step down intensive care hospitals also will function. So I think projecting from exponential growth rate models of case numbers to hospital beds of such a magnitude is a bit of a stretch.
Well, that is the president of the Public Health Foundation of India, Dr. K. Srinath Reddy. He said that projecting from exponential growth rate models of case numbers to hospital beds of such a magnitude is a bit of a stretch. Also speaking to me, he said that this presupposes a continued exponential rise in the number of cases, which need not be if effective containment measures are taken. Well, the World Health Organization is walking back on comments by one of its top scientists that asymptomatic spread of the virus. On Monday, a WHO scientist had said the transmission of COVID-19 from people who never develop symptoms is very rare. Now, these comments caused quite a stir, drawing a fair bit of skepticism from physicians and health experts. Yesterday, WHO claimed that the statement had been misunderstood. She clarified that there has been a very small subset of studies on asymptomatic COVID patients. The organization said there was a need to better understand how many people who are asymptomatic transmit the coronavirus, as this is a major unknown. Well, the Supreme Court is all set to hear the Telecom AGR case tomorrow. It's likely to hear a petition by the government seeking staggered payment of the 1.4 lakh crore rupees due over 20 years. Ashmit joins us now with the details. Ashmit, this is going to be keenly watched by telecom companies as well as banks. But from where this matter was left off by the Supreme Court, where is it expected to take this up from?
Well, at this point, there are two issues to keep in mind. The number one is self-assessment. That is one issue that the Supreme Court had frowned upon, had reprimanded the DoT as to where does the question of self-assessment arise, that the DoT should not have allowed space for to telcos to conduct the self-assessment, that the figures were confirmed after a laborious exercise in the Supreme Court, and that those figures should remain. So the Supreme Court came down quite heavily the last time this case had come up on the DoT for allowing that a room for self-assessment and confirming that earlier figure. Keep in mind that as per the October 29 judgment, the figure that the telcos would need to pay would stack up to about 1.43 lakh crore. So the Supreme Court, in a manner of speaking, confirmed that figure. But what do we expect from tomorrow? Well, let's keep in mind that this tongue lashing that the DoT had received was received on the back of a modification application that they had filed in the Supreme Court. In the modification, what is the modification they've sought? The clarification that they've sought is that given the scale of the burden, perhaps it should be spread out and should be staggered over 20 years. That's the request that the DoT has put forth, and that is the question that will be up for consideration. The figures, again, that we're talking about, to reiterate, is 1.43 lakh crore rupees. Big numbers. Those telcos have been seeking relief and welcome the move by the DoT to allow this staggered movement. But all of that, of course, will be subject to approval by the Apex Court. Tomorrow, Justice Arun Mishra-led bench will be considering this application and will perhaps give more clarity on the way forward on whether or not there is any room available for staggered payment for the telcos.
Yes, this is going to be a crucial one. We'll be watching that development very closely. Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. Now, 2 firefighters of Oil India were found dead near the Assam oil rig that caught fire after a gas leakage. For 14 days, Air Force, Army and the NDRF are assisting the state's rescue and relief operations as the fire continues to rage on. Chief Minister Sarbananda Sonowal has briefed Prime Minister Modi on the situation. Experts brought in from Singapore say it will take at least 4 weeks to cap that gas leak from the oil well. CNN News 18's Karishma Hasnath with more details on that story.
Well, it is quite unfortunate that 2 brave firefighters lost their lives battling the flames at the Bagjan oil rig, where fire broke out yesterday afternoon and spread uncontrollably in the nearby villages. 4 other persons were injured. We saw visible damage on ground, many houses which are in flames. Of course, firefighting efforts were on. In fact, as we speak, fire tenders are at the site. But what officials tell us is that the fire has been reduced considerably after efforts by the district administration, by military and emergency agencies, who are all out there giving their best to douse the flames. What we also know is that over 2,500 people from as many as 1,610 families have been evacuated to safer areas, to relief camps, with the help of NDRF. The chief minister spoke to the media some time ago, and he said that the flames have been brought down to an area under a radius of 50 meters, which is quite reassuring. In fact, the chief minister has been constantly reassuring people, asking them not to panic. And he has also had telephonic conversations with the Prime Minister, with the Home Minister, with the Union Petroleum Minister, and the Union Defence Minister. You would be aware that Indian Air Force has also, sent fire tenders to the site, assisting the civil administration in firefighting efforts. And the experts, the Oil India experts, the ONGC experts, and experts who have been flown in from Singapore on 8th of June, especially for this purpose, have studied, had made an assessment, and they say that the fire can be controlled, the situation can be brought under control, and after that, well-killing operations can also be resumed. But for that, the fire has to be doused first. Some of the immediate measures that would be taken up would be to clear a specific area, say within a radius of 500 to 1,000 meters, would be cleared, and then a ring band would be created. That would be several meters high to cover the burning rig, and water would be constantly poured to cool the atmosphere. In fact, heavy-duty water pumps have been already pressed into service for this purpose. Cooling mechanism started even when the blowout was reported 14 days ago. Remember, the blowout occurred when workover operations were on to procure gas at another site nearby, and the pressure mechanisms failing led to a blowout, and gas was spewed up as a fountain that went up several feet high into the air. So it has had its impact on the environment, on marine life, on the wildlife close to the Diversified National Park, which is just about 300 meters away. The eco-sensitive zone of the park is about 300 meters away, and the core zone is about 860 meters away. Though no visible damage is being seen at the park, but the condensate and the gas that was constantly spewed has had its impact. An assessment and a study is being done in this regard as well. But for the well operations to resume and to complete the operations, officials and experts say that it would take at the most 4 weeks. The Chief Minister, while speaking to the media, said that it would take at least 25 days for all operations to complete. So as we wait for the fire to be doused and well operations to resume, the experts are hopeful. They're confident that this can be controlled, but it would definitely take a long, long time.
Well, let's hope that it is brought under control. Karishma Hasnath, many thanks for joining us with the latest there on the fire that rages on in Assam. It's time now for us to head into a quick break, but coming up, Vietnam signs a free trade agreement with the European Union. What does it mean for India? Rituparna Bhuyan will join us with Ajay Shai, the DG and CEO of PO, and Amitendu Palit, Senior Research Fellow at the National University of Singapore, after this break.